po yung engineer eh.
Kita nyo kahit yung nagpahugas, bawal kayo dito. Ayun laki-laki ng ano nyo.
Kasi po namin yan eh. Business po yan. Inilabas po niya kanina nung
we'll get this already. Hindi kayo magtatanda.
Good morning everyone. It's a very rainy day. You'll see everyone's rushing to put their raincoats on. Today I'm with Quezon City DPOS, not with the MMDA, but they do have some accredited tow trucks with them. And you'll see right now this DPOS enforcer is issuing a ticket to this truck for obstructing the sidewalk. All of the pedestrians are forced into the road, which puts them at danger of being hit by passing vehicles. And of course, after being ticketed, the vehicles have to leave immediately and the sidewalk returns. And I think they'll also be issuing a ticket to this SUV, again obstructing what should be the sidewalk. As much as possible, it should be the properties, the private properties, that adjust to accommodate the vehicles, not just taking over the public sidewalk. So they'll send in an enforcer and issue a ticket. The driver of this vehicle is returned. She's handed over a license and the enforcer's writing out the ticket now. They just stopped this jeepney now. They'll be issuing a ticket for loading, unloading on the corner. It was causing traffic, and then the jeepney driver was arguing, and Dexter pointed out, well, apart from the loading, unloading, there's also no seatbelt, dress code violation, wearing slippers, no uniform. So, you know, you could easily pick apart this jeepney and find a million violations, but they want to be fair, firm but fair. A couple of local PMP have also now joined the operation just to provide any support and security that might be required. It's always good when police join operations. Aside from the enforcers and the head of DPOS, they have one of their lawyers with them today, and he's speaking to guards and business owners, property owners, and advising them about keeping the sidewalk clear. So you know, education is important, but sometimes they can't always reach exactly who they need to, but hopefully the information gets passed on. And they've just come across this vehicle now. It says diplomatic plate for registration, but that doesn't exempt it from the traffic rules, so they'll do the same as any other vehicle. And they're now looking at multiple cars parked here in the road. There's meant to be a bicycle lane there. You see that green line? But not only is that obstructed, but the road is also obstructed. So you'll see the enforcers speaking to each driver now, asking for the license. There's a little bit of resistance, but when they see the tow trucks, they typically hand over the license. So I don't think they'll run into any major problems. This one here has a PWD sticker, but the problem is they're obstructing the sidewalk. And as a PWD, especially if you have mobility issues, you would understand how important it is to keep the sidewalk clear. So I think they will be issuing a ticket regardless.
Hindi ho kami makikipagtalo, pero PWD po kami, pupunta kami sa ospital. Kukuha kami ng pera.
Kukuha ng pera. Yung magsabi kayo ng totoo, sabi nyo emergency. Tatanong ko, pumunta sa bangko, sabi ko kukuha ng pera, di ba?
Opo, magpapatik up kami, kukuha kami ng pera.
Pero ang pinaradahan nyo po, ang PWD may accessibility dito sa mga bangko, di ba?
Ngayon po namin alam ngayon.
Ibig sabihin, ang PWD pwede mag-violate ng rules?
Hindi po.
Ayun.
Ang alam ko po,
klaro po tayo. Ang PWD may exemption sa mga accessibility, di ba?
Kasi na-orient naman kami sa ano eh.
Oo, pero yung when you violate rules, teka mo na boss, alam natin yon. When you violate rules, may exemption ang PWD sa pag-block ng kalsada, di ba?
Ngayon po alam ko na, sir.
Ang klaro po tayo.
Emergency lang kami kumuha ng pera para pumunta sa ospital. Yes, sir. Naintindihan ko na. Okay.
And it looks like further down the road they're getting ready to tow these buses for obstructing the sidewalk, mini buses. If you look, you'll see the sidewalk isn't exactly consistent, but there should still be a sidewalk here. And obviously once you get this far, obstructed, forcing people into the road. So it looks like one of those vehicles will be towed away. The other one would just be ticketed because there's a driver that's willing to move the vehicle. And then now speaking to the driver of this vehicle, they want to issue a ticket and have it moved for obstructing the sidewalk. The team are now on road 20. They're coordinating with the barangay over there, and they'll be issuing tickets to a number of vehicles parked along this road. Thankfully the drivers are cooperative so far. So and over here the enforcers are looking at this one, obstructing what should be the sidewalk. The thing is, if they remove those railings and motorcycles to the front, they'd be able to park without obstructing the sidewalk. And it's not just cars that are being ticketed, they're also issuing tickets to these motorcycles for obstructing the sidewalk. And you see over here they're hooking up the towing gear to this car, again obstructing the sidewalk. No driver to take a ticket. They do have MMDA escorts with them for the tow trucks. And here goes that car now. They're now looking at this one. I can understand why you might build a waiting shed But why would you put the big plant pot there to make sure that nobody can use the sidewalk? It just doesn't make sense. The lawyer from QC, which is pointing out that this is the right way it should be, where you have lots of parking available for your customers and you set back the building instead of extending the building so far forward and then leaving no space for customers to park. And further along the road, they've come across this big wall that's obstructing the sidewalk. What I wonder is, why does the city have to come here and point this out? Why doesn't the barangay see this and deal with it themselves? Why would you let someone build a wall extending and blocking the sidewalk? And here it is from the other side, and actually they're also looking at that post. You might think, oh, it's an electrical post. Nope, it's a big sign for BDO. And they're now continuing further down the road. And they're bringing in a tow truck now to take this one away. It doesn't appear to be a driver to take a ticket and move the vehicle. In the distance there, you'll see there's another one obstructing the sidewalk. It even has a cover over it. And they're just asking for the driver now to issue a ticket. If this was an MMDA operation and this vehicle had a plate, they would just issue a ticket and leave it on the windscreen. But because it's an LGU operation, if no driver turns up within 5 minutes, they're towing it away. If they do appear within 5 minutes, they'll just issue a ticket. And in fact, the driver just arrived for this one, so they're not going to be towing it, they're just going to issue a ticket. And I just heard them call in a flatbed now to take away these tricycles parked on the sidewalk. No driver appears to be anywhere nearby. And they're now looking at this one. Actually, this showed up in a MMDA video in the past, maybe a year ago. If you look, you've got a reasonably wide sidewalk until you get to this point where you've got a garage. And over here they found a PLDT booth on the sidewalk. I have to admit, this is very common, not just PLDT, also Globe, Converge. I've seen it from most of the big providers. You'll see some people from the barangay have now come and they're putting those signs and everything else on their tricycle. I'm not sure how they're going to fit it. According to some other staff members that just arrived, they paid someone in the barangay to occupy the sidewalk and for some other promotional events they're doing in the area. So, and there's now a queue of people waiting. There's no tricycles, and according to the barangay, it's because most of those that sit here waiting for passengers are actually Colorum, so they've all driven away to hide. If you look here, you'll see a relatively wide sidewalk and it continues along, but if you look behind me, you have this. Like, how much of a walkway? Just a tiny space, and then you have the cars there, and it's basically been converted for private use, for personal parking. One of the problems is that when people make it look private, sometimes enforcers treat it private and then they don't issue tickets. So that's something that also needs to be improved on. But right now the lawyer is calling in the DPOS and telling them to issue tickets to these two for obstructing what should be the sidewalk. You'll see they've even painted lines here as if it's, you know, private property.
After 1 year, you are still doing the same.
Hindi po, nagpahugas lang po to. Kasi may kinuha po yung engineer eh.
Kita nyo, kahit yung nagpahugas, bawal kayo dito. Ayun o, laki-laki ng ano nyo.
Eh kasi po, ano namin yan eh. Business po yan. Inilabas po niya kanina nung
we'll get this already. Hindi kayo magtatanda.
Ayaw tayo.
Driver ko, passenger.
Bigay na lang po namin yung lisensya ng isang driver dito.
Hindi kayo magtatanda.
Pwede naman po, bigay na lang yung lisensya nito, di ba?
Hindi kayo magtatanda. Demanda niyo ako, sige. Pero hindi kayo magtatanda dito. Balik at tanggalin nito. Kayo nagpagawa nito?
Sa ano po ito eh?
Sa
CR po ito.
Nagpagawa nito. Kayo?
Sa amin po ito.
Tanggalin nito. Property nito?
Oo, sa amin
Okay.
na.
Pwede ito naman yung property. Gusto nyo push nyo dyan. And then you can park one car here. Ganon.
Hindi ko sabihin, nag-ano to dahil lang dito sa posin na to. Hanggang sa posin na to.
Sa ginagawa nito, ang tagal na yung ginagawa to.
So I think the attorney raised a good point there. If they haven't adjusted their garage after this long, maybe they're never going to do it. And even if they get ticketed, how often would that happen? Once a month? Once every 2 months? They'll just pay the ticket and forget about it. But if their car gets towed away, they really feel that. It's a real pain in the butt, and it sends a strong message that they're serious about reclaiming public spaces, reclaiming the sidewalks. So you'll see they're hooking up to these and they'll be taking them away. Since the driver of this one arrived but too late, they're still towing it, but they'll tow it with all wheels on the ground per his request. So you see it's already connected to the tow truck, ready to be taken away. If you saw this, you would think, yeah, it's all private property. But then where did the sidewalk disappear to? Anyway, they're bringing in another tow truck now for this white car. I asked the lawyer from Quezon City Hall, what are they going to do about properties that have extended their garages onto the sidewalk or commercial properties? They said they have another team which will be going around and knocking these down. So hopefully we'll be able to join them in the future, because even right now there are some people that are building on the sidewalk. Really, the barangay should be the first line of defense. When they see someone extending on the sidewalk, they should say, hey, that's not allowed, because demolition later is a lot more work than just stopping them from day one. The lady from the car wash asked the team, can't you just ticket our employees for these two vehicles instead of towing them? The problem with that is they don't have the keys to the vehicles, they can't move them. The idea of issuing a ticket instead of towing is you give them a ticket and immediately they move the vehicle. If it's just going to continue sitting there for another 8 hours, it defeats the purpose, and that's why they prefer to tow them away to clear the obstruction. And here goes the other car that's been picked up. And look at this vehicle over here. No plate number, no conduction sticker, although it does have a plate on the back so the MMDA can issue a ticket. And I just learned something really interesting. QC DPOS cannot issue a ticket if there's no driver. So a vehicle like this, they can't do anything about, which is incredible. And those that do have a driver, the ticket is only 350 peso for illegal parking. But I just spoke to the head of DPOS and he told me they already have a resolution waiting to be passed, hopefully in the next 2 months, and that will allow them to issue tickets to vehicles based on the plate number and tie in with the LTO system. And the penalty would be 2,000 peso. So basically in line with what the MMDA are doing. I'm amazed, I didn't know that before, that the tickets are so cheap and that they can only issue a ticket if there's a driver. And take a look, when people say you need more signs, well, do you? Or do you just need people to actually have some discipline? And look what it's done to the sewer. Apart from obstructing it, I'm sure a lot of it has gone in there, and that's why every single day the MMDA have multiple teams that go around and actually empty these sewers. It's a non-stop job every day. I hope they'll also combat things like this, where people converted the sidewalk to tile, because it's so slippery to walk on. Who on earth would think it's a good idea to put slippery tiles on a public sidewalk? Right now they're on the corner of Tandang Sora and General Avenue, and what they're talking about is these tricycle spaces that have been blocked off over here. The problem is there's roadworks on this road and it's so close to a corner that it's a congestion or a choke point. Obviously right now the tricycles have driven away because a lot of the time tricycle drivers don't have any kind of permit or any kind of driver's license. But if you can imagine that there were loads of them parked there, you could see how it could be a bottleneck.
Exactly. Ang sumbong kasi dito, bumabara dito. Okay? Okay. Ngayon, sa PUJ terminal permit nyo, eto, tingnan.
Oo, sir.
Dalawa lang dito pwede. So, panatiliin natin ng dalawa lang.
Oo, sir.
Okay? Ngayon, kung magre-recommend sila, loading and unloading yon, hindi ka na pwedeng mag-ano doon. Hindi na pwede silang tumigil doon.
Magbabad.
Oh, pero sa ngayon, hanggang dalawa lang sila doon.
Oo, sir.
Okay? So, pagka lumampas yun, hulihin na nila.
Wala sila, sir.
Okay?
Oo, sir.
Okay, ha? So, ikaw na bahala magkano sa mga kasama mo, ha?
Dalawa.
Hanggang dalawa lang.
Walang tenga rito, sir.
Pag naging tatlo, hindi na pwede. So, dalawa lang. Okay? Ngayon, pagka napulubahan yung kanilang magiging recommendation, loading and unloading na lang dito. Anyway, malapit na naman to. Pero sa ngayon, lagi na dalawa lang. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
And over here they're issuing a ticket to this gentleman for riding without helmet. They're asking this jeepney driver for his license, but he's arguing. The thing is, he's parked right on a corner and in a red box, so any car that's coming out there has to go wide around him. And they're also issuing a ticket to this taxi parked here. And while they've been going around, they've been discussing different ideas, and these are just ideas, nothing concrete, but what can we do to make things more organized for loading, unloading, instead of having jeepneys bunching up, picking up passengers. So one of the ideas, for example, just an idea might be some of this public parking converted to a loading, unloading area, because jeepneys carry a lot of people, it's public transport. So you know, they're trying to come up with different ideas. Nothing set in concrete, just ideas.
I'm Attorney Ariel Linton, the Action Officer of Task Force Transportation and Traffic Management of Quezon City. The idea of the government is that this is a first come, first served parking space for the public. But what they are doing now, you see there is a sign there, no parking sign. They place it here as if it's theirs. And then when they come, they will remove the sign and park their car. They will park here forever.
So this is government property.
This
so
government,
there's nothing
and they
stopping
don't
you.
pay a single centavo as parking fee. You can just imagine how many of these vehicles are doing the same. All of them are using it permanently, depriving the customers of some restaurants here to use it in a temporary for a temporary basis. So that's the problem. So we'll have this removed, make it a loading and unloading sign as a segment of Visayas Avenue, so that the jeepneys will not be stopping and load and unload passengers along the road.